Hello there, Stevos. Welcome along to another episode of the movie wrap up right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. Let's see what movies I've been watching this week and reviewing in this episode of the movie wrap up. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap Up, episode 74, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie we'll be reviewing in this episode is The Meal Killers. So the first movie we'll be reviewing is The Meal Killers, which I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. So this happens to I happened to stumble upon this film through Amazon Prime Video here in the UK. Not sure if this was recently added here in the UK on Prime, but Aled Owen is the person who directed The Meal Killers. And while I first saw the poster, it instantly gave me these vibes that this was going to be something along the same lines as the cult classic horror movie I Know What You Did Last Summer. There is actually a reference to that movie within the dialogue of the film. And also what's funny is that there soon will be a new I Know What You Did Last Summer, which is soon being released in cinemas and theatres worldwide, which I will watch and review as soon as the movie is released. But back to The Meal Killers though, and I must say that this movie did bring the tension, did have some horror to it. I would class this as a low budget horror, and at first in terms of the acting, I wasn't too sure about the acting from the main leads at first. I did think this is probably going to be one of those movies where I talk quite negatively about it, and while at first at the start I wasn't convinced at all by the acting, but by the final act of the movie the acting was a lot more believable than the first act of the film. These are also actresses that I have never heard of before, so there is that as well. There was some really decent shots in this movie as well. For example, there's a black and white scene during the opening act of the movie, but there's a few things in here that was coloured in, like for example there was a briefcase of some sort which was red, and we could see it was red as it was coloured in during those black and white scenes. We also saw some blood, which again was red during those black and white scenes as well. I did like those scenes a lot. The lighting in this was also rather decent, and as for the music scoring, again, the music scoring brought the tension to the film during those tense scenes. As for the running time, The Meal Killers has a running time that clocks in at 1 hour and 40 minutes, so it's a nice and easy watch. Is this a movie that I would recommend to the horror/thriller fans? I would say so indeed. This was a decent watch, and one that I think I could see me going back to and rewatching again sometime in the future. Again, as mentioned before, I was half expecting me to give this a more lower rating than I did, but I did enjoy this one a lot, and I hope that others do check this one out. But The Meal Killers is available to stream over on the streaming service Amazon Prime Video here in the UK. Megan 2.0. Next up is Megan 2.0, which I gave 3 stars over on Letterboxd. So, Megan 2.0 is the first movie I have watched in the month of July 2025, and according to the list of films I have roughly 89 movies to watch this month, most of which are movies I have missed watching in the first half of 2025. Will I be able to watch all 89 movies by the end of July? Well, we will have to wait and see on that one. But that being said though, let's talk about Megan 2.0. As I watched that in the cinema, what did I think of Megan 2.0? It kind of reminded me of a movie that came out in the 90s. What is that movie that came out in the 90s that this movie reminded me of? Well, the movie was directed by James Cameron and starred Arnold Schwarzenegger and Linda Hamilton, and was a sequel of a cultural classic film released in the early 80s, and directed by the same director. That's right, I am talking about Terminator 2 Judgment Day. That's what Megan 2.0 kind of reminded me of. It's just one robot versus another robot. I mean, similar to the first Megan film, has one thing in mind: protect Katie at all costs, and that's exactly what she plans to do when her auntie ends up in danger. And when her auntie ends up in danger, then there's a likely chance that Katie herself could end up in danger. Of course, this film does reference the first film, which was first released back in 2023. I was having a conversation with someone before the movie began, and they genuinely thought the movie had released back in 2021. And even at one point, I was convinced that it was as well. But the first film was released 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, to be precise, as the first one was released in January 2023. So the sequel does reference the first one. Megan 2.0 also does ditch the horror in a surprise move. Now, admittedly, there is still some elements of horror in here, but if you are expecting any kind of gore in here, then don't, because it does ditch the horror in favour of the action and comedy. However, though, the action sequences were quite fun to see on screen, and also the comedic elements within the dialogue and within the scenes did somewhat pay off. Not all the jokes or scenes on screen do tend to land from time to time, but when they do, though, they are still enjoyable to watch, though. I thought the cast were great. We do have some returning cast members slash characters in this one who appeared in the first movie. The running time does clock in at 2 hours, which is 18 minutes longer than the first one. And I will say that there is one thing they did keep in here that was in the first one. They did keep the charm and the campiness from the first movie. Who would I recommend this one to? Well, if you have seen the first one, then I am sure you will somewhat enjoy this one, despite there not being any horror in here and being more action-based, action-focused. If you enjoy comedy or action movies, then I have a feeling that you will also enjoy this one. Is Megan 2.0 a movie I can see myself going back and revisiting and rewatching again? Yes, I think so. And whilst I am at it, I will probably watch the first one again, as it's been a while since I have watched that one. And is Megan 2.0 a movie I can see me purchasing to buy and keep on digital later this year when it's released? Yes, for sure. Again, I do have the first one on digital, so I can see me buying and keeping the sequel on digital as well. Megan 2.0 is now showing in cinemas and theatres worldwide. Big Man. And finally this week I have watched a short movie in the form of Big Man, which I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. I don't get how we can class this as a movie because, well, it has a really short running time, clocking in at just 20 minutes. So if you are looking for something quick to watch, then I do recommend this. Stormzy stars in this mini movie, which was filmed entirely from iPhone. The second movie in the space of a month that has been filmed on an iPhone. When are we going to get films that were filmed using a Samsung phone? That's the question. I must say, I did enjoy the scenes where Stormzy's character takes 2 young kids off to Brighton for the afternoon. Reminded me of when I've been to Brighton, and I do have a bit of Brighton FOMO, so I definitely should go back there at some point soon. I reckon I should. But Big Man is now available to stream on Amazon Prime Video here in the UK. Yeah, I'm being dead serious, by the way. Like, honestly, after watching Big Man, I genuinely... There were scenes in that film where I was like, damn, I've walked along that pier. Damn, I've been inside that arcade. And it instantly made me feel like I needed to go back to Brighton. So I reckon at some point a Brighton trip is overdue. And if I do go to Brighton, I'll vlog it. And I'll even do a TikTok about it as well, because I'm starting to get into TikTok content creating as well at the same time, which is great. Great fun. Anyway, that is all for this week's episode of the Movie Wrap Up. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what movies you guys have watched this week. Whether it's old, new, in cinema, on DVD, on Blu-ray, on VHS. even on streaming as well. Feel free to let me know in the comment section down below what you guys have been watching this past week. And as always, if you are new around here and you like what you see, feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to become a Stevo. Your next YouTube video will be out tomorrow in real time. Monday the 7th of July, 4 PM UK time is when your next YouTube video will be out. It will be another episode of Steve's weekly vlog. And of course, I'll be back with your next episode of Steve's movie wrap-up on Sunday, the 13th of July 2025 at 4 PM UK time right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. Until then though, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you guys again in my next YouTube video.